Camera export note, recovered from the future dated file. The vending machine prints a warning receipt from an empty coin slot at 0317. The first problem is not what it says. The first problem is where the record says it came from. This is a Bureau of Lost Signals case file, original fiction, reconstructed like an archive recording. The case is called "The Vending Machine Printed a Warning." At the center is a vending machine, a warning receipt, and the service panel that logs tomorrow's inspection. No gore, no easy monster. Just timestamps, witness notes, and one mistake the file keeps making on purpose. It should be explainable, not yet. The first version sounds like damaged equipment. The second sounds like coincidence. The third sounds like it knows who is listening. The file does not begin with a monster. It begins with a vending machine warning receipt, ordinary enough to be ignored until the timestamps start contradicting the room. The night custodian says the break room went quiet when the machine clicked, like every fluorescent light was listening. Then the pattern changes. The detail that breaks the file is mechanical. The receipt prints before the keypad wakes and before the coin slot registers contact. The object in evidence is a warm receipt strip with a warning line, a service key mark, and no matching transaction. The printer motor leaves a stepped audio trace under the warning, and the rhythm repeats before each receipt appears. The break room has one vending machine, one camera, and a service panel that records an opening nobody performed. Ask the obvious question. Why did nobody notice it the first time? Here is the part that made the Bureau stop treating it like noise. The archive copy includes a maintenance log signed 20 minutes after the warning was printed. By the second review pass, the Bureau had 3 copies of the same event. One came from the live recorder. One came from a sealed cabinet. One came from a source that should not have been able to transmit anything at all. The machine is not warning the room. It is documenting what the Bureau is about to notice. Then, it answers. The case rule is simple. Every time someone ignores the receipt, the machine prints a more specific one. The evidence looks harmless until it isn't. Dust on a table, a light in a window, a needle moving without a hand near it. That restraint is why the case stayed open. Nothing performs for the camera. The room simply changes its mind. So what changed? The final service code points to a snack row that is missing from the cabinet diagram. That is where the story tilts. The after-hours break room stops being a location and becomes a test. Every instrument points somewhere plausible. Every human statement points somewhere else. The evidence board splits into 3 columns. The first column is mechanical: serial numbers, room temperature, timestamps, custody marks. The second column is human: what the night staff heard, what they refused to write down, and which light stayed on after the recorder stopped. The third column is the one the Bureau never shows publicly, because it tracks what changed after each replay. On the first replay, a vending machine warning receipt behaves like damaged equipment. On the second, it behaves like a transmitter. On the third, it behaves like a witness correcting the official record. That progression matters because it turns a strange object into a chain of custody problem. The Bureau isolates the file in a clean room. No network, no wireless card, no external speaker, and a fresh recorder with a blank index. The sound still arrives with the same low pressure under it, but the silence around the sound is different, as if the new room has been added to the recording. And this is where the room stops feeling passive. One analyst marks the moment the case stops being passive evidence. It is not the loudest moment. It is not the most frightening moment. It is a tiny delay before the next tone, a pause just long enough to feel like the file is waiting for the Bureau to catch up. The physical scene around the after-hours break room never becomes spectacular. That is what makes it worse. No door slams. No impossible figure crosses the frame. The proof is smaller. A shadow that should belong to equipment that is not there. A meter needle settling before power returns. A tag number printed 1 line too early. The public reconstruction uses only the safest fragments, but even those fragments create a pattern. Every time the Bureau removes context to make the case easier to explain, the remaining evidence becomes more direct. The file seems to punish simplification. By mid-afternoon, the archive team tests a control phrase. They write down a sentence that is never spoken aloud. The next recording does not repeat the sentence. It does something worse. It leaves a gap exactly where the sentence would fit. That gap becomes the case's fingerprint. Not a voice, not a symbol, not a threat. An absence with consistent timing, carried from device to device as if the missing part is the message. The final detail is small. That is why it works. The vending machine is printing the Bureau's next inspection note before the Bureau writes it. The Bureau tried to reduce the file to equipment failure, but each clean room replay carried one extra detail from the room that had just played it. The public copy removes the worst part. The private copy keeps it. The event behaves less like a transmission and more like a memory deciding which machine should hold it next. The last receipt lists row G0, but the machine only has rows A through F. The file is sealed as a vending machine receipt event with service log drift marked active. If the printer clicks again, the Bureau may not be reading a warning. It may be receiving its next line of evidence. The next file begins when a missing diver's radio calls from dry land.